Belgium is officially one country, but in reality, it operates as two separate nations. It has two languages, two media landscapes, and even two political systems. It once survived a world record 541 days without a federal government, and most citizens barely noticed. How did this divided state become the heart of Europe, and what might happen if it finally breaks? To understand the future of Belgium, we first have to understand why it was invented in the first place. For centuries, the land of modern-day Belgium was passed around by European powers, owned at points by the French, the Spanish, and the Austrians. After the Napoleonic Wars, the great powers of Europe needed a buffer zone to keep France in check, so they put Belgium into the United Kingdom of the Netherlands. This quickly became a disaster. There was the Dutch king, William I, a strict Protestant who wanted to control the schools, the language, and more. But the people in the south weren't devout Catholics and spoke French and Flemish dialects. They didn't want a Dutch king, taxes, and language forced on them. In 1830, a riot broke out at an opera house in Brussels, eventually turning into a full-scale revolution. An unlikely alliance of Catholics and liberals demanded more autonomy and rights. As the Dutch king sent his army to Brussels, refusing to compromise, the demands became total independence. King William appealed to the great powers for help, but they were too worried that a conflict would lead to the annexation of Belgium into France. Faced with this possibility, they created Belgium as an independent, neutral state. However, there was a major issue. The country sat on a linguistic and cultural fault line. In the north, there are the Flemish people, who speak Dutch or Flemish and are more similar to their Germanic neighbors. In the south, there's the Walloons, French speakers with a more Romance culture. This caused issues for the young state, which was more like two states that were conveniently pushed together to form a buffer with France. To understand this divide better, let's look at what's going on in the Belgian army during World War I. At the time, the Belgian elite and military officers spoke French, but the bulk of the infantry were young Flemish-speaking farmers and laborers. Imagine being a Flemish soldier in the middle of a chaotic bombardment. Your commander is screaming life or death orders at you in a language you literally don't understand. For the Flemish troops, it was a sign that their own government didn't care about them, as they were seen as disposable, second-class citizens who didn't even deserve to be spoken to in their mother tongue. When the Nazis occupied Belgium during World War II, they further exacerbated this resentment. They implemented Flamenpolitik, a policy of favoring the Flemish over the Walloons. They turned the University of Ghent into a Dutch-only institution and promised Flanders more autonomy. While many Flemish resisted, some saw this as their only chance for equality. After the war, the Walloons saw the Flemish as collaborators with the enemy, betraying the Belgian nation. But the last factor wasn't war, it was money. Wallonia had been the most prosperous of the two since the nation's creation. It had coal mines and steel mills, being one of the most heavily industrialized places of the 19th century. On the other hand, Flanders was just a poor, rural backwater. However, after a century, the mines began to dry up. As Wallonia's old and heavy industry collapsed, Flanders began to rise. Investment was thrown into Flemish ports like Antwerp and Ghent. These high-tech trade hubs became powerhouses. Suddenly, the Flemish were the ones paying the bills for the country. So they began to ask, why are we sending our euros to a region that doesn't even speak our language? By the late 1960s, the country had reached a breaking point. To prevent the country from falling into chaos, the government tried something radical. They decided to stop being one country. Between 1970 and 2014, they launched 6 massive reforms, creating one of the most complicated governments on Earth. First, the country was split into 3 regions, Flanders, Wallonia, and Brussels, each handling policies such as the environment, roads, and the economy of their regions. Secondly, the country was split into 3 language communities, Dutch, French, and German. Each would handle culture, education, and more. This may sound organized, but really it was a hot mess. In Flanders, the 2 governments were merged to form a more powerful Flemish administration, while in the south, the French speakers kept them separate. And then there's Brussels. It's a French-speaking international island in the middle of Flanders. Because it's both the capital of Belgium and the EU, Flanders won't let it go, and Wallonia won't leave it behind. This Brussels knot is exactly what keeps the 2 sides tied together in a marriage that they both want to leave. If you walk across the invisible line between Flanders and Wallonia today, you are walking into a completely different world. There are no national newspapers, TV channels, even the political parties don't cross the border. There is no Belgian Socialist Party or Belgian Conservative Party. Instead, there's a Flemish and French-speaking party for each. This creates a political deadlock that would break most other countries. To form a federal government, the Prime Minister has to play a high-stakes game of Tetris, trying to fit these rival parties together. In 2010, the puzzle was so broken that Belgium went 541 days without a government. Think about that. For For nearly 2 years, there was no one officially in charge. No new laws, no big budgets, and the craziest part, the country actually did fine. The economy grew, and the trains mostly ran on time because the regional governments just kept doing their own thing. This proved the separatist points. If the country works better when a central government is missing, why do we need a central government at all? So, what would a split actually look like? It wouldn't be a war or a revolution, it would likely be a slow, quiet dissolution. One by one, the remaining federal powers would be handed over to the regions until the only thing left of Belgium is a king, a national soccer team, and the city of Brussels. A formal, sudden end of Belgium is likely not imminent, but the de facto dissolution is already complete. The country exists as two separate public spheres with two separate media landscapes, two separate party systems, and two separate political cultures. The federal state is just a shell that binds them.